We've been trying to take that step back since the Obama administration. When I left Iraq as ambassador early 2009, we had just hosted President Bush on a visit to Iraq, his last one. He came in on Air Force One, that great blue and white aircraft, in broad daylight into Baghdad International Airport. If you want a sign of what the previous couple of years with both a military and a diplomatic surge had brought, that was it. To see the President of the United States landing on Iraqi soil, mid-afternoon, Air Force One. It was safe enough to do that. You don't win a war by withdrawing your troops from the field, which is effectively what we did after 2010. You simply give the space to an enemy who is more determined, has more patience. So that step back became a major step forward for Iran and its militias, and of course from the period 2014 up until last year for Islamic State. So taking a step back, well, here's what I've learned in the Foreign Service. Two things. Be careful what you get into. That would apply to Lebanon in the early 80s, Iraq, Afghanistan, later times. When you undertake a military intervention in someone else's country, that is a really big deal. And it's going to provide consequences not to the third and fourth order, but to the 30th and 40th. So careful what you get into. Second thing I learned, careful what you get out of. Once you're in, you're in. If you decide you're tired, you want to go home, it's cost too much blood, too much treasure, you need to weigh the consequences of that decision to pull back. We were not careful getting into Iraq in 2003. We were not careful getting out of Iraq in 2011. And we paid the price both times. So take a step back, sure, but just be sure you study the consequences, what that step back is going to cause. President Obama talked about the pivot to Asia. Well, if you look at that in anthropomorphic terms, if you pivot to Asia, you kind of expose your rear end to the Middle East, which is going to take a big bite out of it, again, as we saw. So now we are talking about Syria, for example. Do we stay or do we go? We're there now. Do we remain? And if so, in what numbers? To what ends? Against what opposition? That needs to be a very careful calculation.